Good evening, everybody. The Music Fan is back, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. And I am back with another Are You In? I have a game plan from now until the end of the year. Basically, I want to put up 15 more Are You Ins, 3 each week, to give a little bit of space and give you some time to digest each video. These albums I'm taking a look at are either albums that I've been meaning to do from the last couple of months, or ones that flew under my radar from earlier in the year that I would like to brush up on before I get into my top 50 of the year. So hopefully everything works out and I'll get all 15 done within the end of the month. Anyways, tonight I'm taking a look at the newest Leonard Cohen album entitled Thanks for the Dance. Leonard Norman Cohen was a Canadian singer, songwriter, poet, and novelist from Westmount, Quebec, Canada. He had a bunch of CDs over the last 50 years, including Songs of Leonard Cohen in 1967, Songs from a Room in 1969, Songs of Love and Hate in 71, New Skin for the Old Ceremony in 74, Death of a Ladies' Man in 77, Recent Songs in 79, Various Positions in 1984, I'm Your Man in 1988, The Future in 1992, 10 New Songs in 2001, Dear Heather in 2004, Old Ideas in 2012, Popular Problems in 2014, and You Want It Darker in 2016. This is a musician that I knew by name, but I never really checked out any of his music. I think, like others, my only real knowledge of Leonard Cohen is his rendition of Hallelujah. A very beautiful song, very simplistic song, but one that gives room to a lot of really imaginative lyrics about love and love lost. Unfortunately, my next dive into his music was with his final album up until now, You Want It Darker. If you remember back to 2016, we had 2 really interesting albums diving into mortality and death and final moments of life. Those being Leonard Cohen's You Want It Darker and David Bowie's Black Star. Both dropped right before both of them passed away. I find each one of them interesting in its own right. Black Star was a little bit more out there, a little bit more theatrical in its portrayals of death, which fit perfectly for David Bowie's style. Leonard Cohen, on the other hand, was a little bit more in your face, a little bit more realistic, a little bit more simplistic, but giving room for these very somber reflections on life and love and your time on Earth. I love the music a little bit more on Black Star, but I find the realness and rawness of You Want It Darker a little bit more relatable. I had both of them in my top 10 of 2016 just because of just how interesting of a look they both took on life. I thought that would be the end of Leonard Cohen's music, but I found out that they were putting out a posthumous album of some other songs that were good, but just didn't have enough there at the moment to be put on You Want It Darker. Adam Cohen has been working on these songs with other artists, including Beck, Feist, and Damien Rice, to give these songs the proper treatment that they deserve. I think it's a beautiful passion project, and it's really cool to see Leonard Cohen's son working to preserve these last thoughts and last songs of Leonard Cohen. However, of course, I'm a little bit apprehensive because I've listened to other posthumous albums from some very prominent figures over the years. They've been good, but they didn't necessarily be needed to put out. Those ones felt a little bit more like B-sides. One that comes to mind is Michael Jackson. He's had some decent hits after his death, but it just feels like they don't need to be there. Of course, I want to go into this with all the best intentions, and I came out enjoying this. Even though there's a lot of people working on the music, it's never really the main focal point. It's just a background to bring out these last ideas. There are some pretty standout arrangements. I love the Spanish flair of the Night of Santiago. I love the layering on there. The clapping parts are really nice, and the Spanish guitar has a great flair as he's talking about this one night of passion with a beautiful lady in Santiago. I really enjoyed the folky nature of Happens to the Heart and Moving On. Both of them feeling a little bit somber and giving a lot of room for lyrics about love and love lost, and growing older and feeling not as much love or not as much stimuli. Thanks for the Dance is absolutely heartbreaking. I absolutely adore the waltz feel. It, it doesn't necessarily stand out in terms of other songs in that nature, but it works perfectly for what these lyrics are talking about. Thanks for all the dances. Thank you for being there with me throughout the whole entire time, whether it's a relationship or a marriage or a companionship or a friendship, not always feeling like you want to be in it, or there might be some times where there are some hardships where people are stepping on each other's feet, but throughout the whole entire time, even when you're tired, you were there for me. So that is lovely, absolutely lovely. I also love Listen to the Hummingbird as a closer. It's absolutely gorgeous, and there isn't as much words in there, but the music itself makes up for that. It almost feels like a passing of the torch. Remember my words and remember that I was here, but take the time to enjoy life without me. Don't just think about me. Don't think about my passing. Don't think about what I left behind. Think about who I was and enjoy those memories, and then move on from there and listen to the hummingbird, listen to the butterfly, all these things that have less of a life but still get to enjoy that time. The piano and guitar parts are gorgeous, and the background voices at the end have such a nice touch. It feels like, again, it's just passing on and moving on to the next point. Its tone is also really solid with its melancholy arrangement. It's mostly guitar and piano, but I enjoy those parts in particular. I think it's talking about moving on from life and the people that you leave behind. This one's a little bit more melancholy, but it's still really effective. And even the goal, I do enjoy as a really solidly building arrangement, talking about how you never really reach every goal that you want. It's a journey rather than the goal, and sometimes, unfortunately, you never make it. And I think the imageries in there are really interesting, with Leonard Cohen sitting at home and looking down the street and seeing someone else in his same situation, and both of them acknowledging it. At first, I didn't really like the song because there wasn't much there, but as a metaphor for life and how short it can be, it works really well. The only two songs that I'm a little bit not as interested in is Puppets and The Hills. Puppets has a very powerful message, seeming to talk about how everyone is controlled in a certain way to do certain actions, and taking it on the idea of World War II. However, I think some of the lyrics get a little bit muddled in the context, as it just feels like it's more free-flowing ideas rather than one cohesive narrative. Because of that, it just feels a little bit vague, and this is one of the more simplistic of the arrangements. Even with everything being simplistic, it doesn't give you enough there to be fully engaged. It's still really powerful, but there are moments in there where it just leaves me wanting more. And then The Hills is decent in terms of its layering of parts, adding baritone sax parts and acoustic guitar later on during the verses. I do like how there's a very stark contrast between the dark and foreboding verses and the choruses feeling a little bit more bright and hopeful. But I think that the choruses themselves are a little bit boring, destroying some of the momentum on this particular song, which is the longest song on the album. That being said, though, it's only 9 songs in 26 minutes. There's a lot of really good passion, a lot of really good lyrics on here. I'm really happy that they were able to put out his last words and his last ideas in such a strong way, where they could have just easily tacked it on as a B-side to something. They took the time, they added a lot of musicians, they actually sat down and gave musical merit to his last words. In that sense, I do encourage you to listen to it, and I would give this album a full listen. That being said, I hope that there is no other songs that Adam Cohen decides to work on. This was a perfect way of giving a closure to Leonard Cohen's life and his musical career. I would hate to see them working on more and more songs, especially with Listen to the Hummingbird as that last song. It's a great metaphor for saying, you've had me, you've had my life, you were there with me, remember me as I was, and move on and create your own life. That is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for an end, a closure here. Thanks for the dance, Leonard Cohen. I really appreciate these last 2 albums, and I only wish I took the time to listen to you before you passed. That's my time. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you like or hate this album and your reasons why. Let me know other albums from 2019 you'd like me to review. Share this with your friends. And most importantly, subscribe to my channel. That way I know you enjoy what I'm doing and want to see this channel become bigger and better for the future. So I'll be back tomorrow with another Are You In? Until then, this is Music Fan, and I'm signing off.